All right. Once again, thank you to Oliver Jones for that great intro song. Welcome to the My Name is Human Earth2.io podcast brought to you by E2.news. My name is Human
And
Hazy,
my name is Human Kangy.
and we got a lot of stuff to talk about after the Easter egg hunt on Saturday. But before we get started, I do want to announce we're going to have a $50 cash giveaway. You must have PayPal or Cash App. And how we're going to do this is I'm going to play two ads during this podcast. The first part will be what you have to do to be eligible for the giveaway. So you have to listen to the first ad to find that part. And the second ad will tell you how you submit your entry. So listen to the two ads. They're only 30 to 45 seconds each. So shouldn't be too hard for you. And someone's going to win $50. And if only one person enters, that person's going to get $50. So what do you got to lose? And Kane, you said you had a giveaway, so how'd that
I
end up
did,
going?
yeah. It was first come, first serve. Whoever submitted a bid first on a 15 Class 1 tiles in Honduras would get the plot. And we did have a winner. So Jay Tilden, I have changed the name of the property to reflect your current Earth 2 username. And as soon as Shane and the team make it a bit easier to transfer that property over, it will be coming your way.
All right, so let's talk about the topic of the week, the Easter egg
Yeah,
hunt.
I think that's
Uh,
item number one. So how did it go for you?
so, uh, well, I probably didn't get an egg, but that's not
Yeah,
surprising.
I feel like I'm in the same boat, but I think we kind of expected that coming in. So, what were your takeaways from the event? How did you feel? What were some positives that you identified and how things went?
Positives was seeing the video, seeing some of the things that are going to be in the game, the buildings, the seeing the Earth 2 Jeep again was cool. Seeing just kind of some of the, I mean, it was the same type of terrain we've seen in the
Right,
past,
similar biome. Yeah,
but just seeing it move through that atmosphere and just kind of getting a wide, broad view of how things can happen in the tile system was kind of interesting. It did seem like it had really good participation, and it's probably a little bit of a genius move by Earth Two to get the free marketing by using a hashtag on social
oh yeah,
media.
absolutely. And I mean, yeah, it's hard for us to gauge what the participation is outside of what we were seeing in the Earth 2 IO official Discord and what we were seeing on social media. But just generally, it seemed the buzz for the week and then day of that there had to have been pretty good numbers as far as folks looking to get some eggs. And I know that I was watching the YouTube stream and they had well over 3,000 viewers on that. So yeah, I mean, definitely some good publicity for the company. And then there's got to be some, once the winners are announced, we've got some money coming back to the community. So we're going to see a little bit of marketplace stimulation. So that'll be a positive impact. And I also think this may indicate that we get some more future holiday or other sort of seasonal type events for the community. Later this month,
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was going to say Shane did. He did mention there are 15 more eggs, and that they do have plans for those eggs. So
Yeah, I mean, later this month we've got Earth Day, but we've got, there's holidays every month, so they could do all sorts of things. We could do something for Mother's Day or Memorial Day or who knows. So I'm excited to see what kind of other events we might get, and as they do more events, will we maybe see things that are a little bit more, how do I say this, more germane to the game, routed through the game once we get into things like phase two. Uh,
yeah, but I do understand why they did it this way. And Shane even said it was one, bots can't go onto YouTube videos and
this is
find
true.
eggs,
Absolutely. I mean, that was.
and and then using the social media to announce who found an egg and rewarded kind of prevented it from any speculation of it being rigged, which is what Shane said was the other reason for that.
Right, right. And I mean, I don't know that. I mean, we'll see once the winners are announced. We'll see if that is enough to actually dissuade people from claiming that it's rigged. But
Yeah, and we will talk about one of the negatives here in a second, but I did want to point out that as of right now, there are 73,870 views on that video. That's pretty impressive for a video that's been out for a
Yeah,
few days.
definitely. No, I mean, I think that it definitely had some a serious amount of eyeballs on it. But with all those eyeballs, there's been some gripes, there's been some complaints.
Wait a minute, people complaining about
Yeah, and
Earth2.io?
free money, really. So, doubly
Shocking as
unsurprising. Yeah.
usual. Yeah. So the big thing for me was and I know this is the problem you had too, was the video quality was pretty horrendous in the beginning. So if you tried to actually pause it and capture a frame where you could try to focus in on an egg, it was very pixelated. It moved very choppily at first, and so finding an egg if you weren't smart like me was a problem.
That's right. And I was watching it live and, basically rewound it once, found an app to download a copy to try to get better quality, and then kind of moved on. I didn't try that hard, so to speak.
Yeah, and so I did. Nathaniel was in the Discord chat later that evening, and one of the things I asked was, "Why was the video quality so bad?" I'm like, "I go, did you guys take a huge step backwards from the terrain video because it didn't make
Right.
any sense?" And he said it's YouTube compressing the video when you're doing a live stream.
Yeah, and that absolutely made sense. As soon as you communicated that to me, I figured what I was looking at that was poor quality and what other people were griping out was probably more YouTube related than Earth 2 related. We're,
Yeah, and I went and watched the video after he said that, and it was day and night. It was crystal clear, 4K, just like the terrain video. And then it was like then I fell in love again. I'm like, okay, if I don't get an egg, it's cool, but would have been nice to have that kind of quality when you're doing
Right,
egg hunt.
right. But that is you raise a really good point. We got to see, even for those folks that didn't get an egg, we got a good opportunity to see, more terrain video. This is a no lose situation, right? So at least for me.
Yeah, I mean, no, it makes me excited for the actual gameplay. When we get to that part, that's going to be interesting. So one of the negative parts about doing it via social media was what I know took place. Someone would post that they found an egg, and the people watching would see that post, locate that on the map, and just duplicate it basically.
Yeah, and I think I understand why Shane and the team had set up the event in this way, and I think that it probably did have some of the desired effect as far as making the event fair, but it's social media and it's a specific hashtag to report that you've won. So anybody who got lazy, like say if I had been a little bit less ethically sound, I could have just sat and refreshed that hashtag repeatedly instead of try to find the eggs myself. That relies me putting in that elbow grease and actually lining up the video, but still, I mean, it sounds like folks did succeed in applying that method. So, there's
Oh, for sure. I know there was more than one person that did that. And my thinking is, Shane was worried about people claiming it was rigged. Who cares what they think? Have it be a private submission
yeah.
system.
I mean, I do think that it's a bit of a maybe wishful thinking that he'll ever be able to totally assure the community that it's not rigged, just because it's the way people act on the internet. I
Yeah, for me, I would have just preferred a private submission to email address specific for this, and then they go through those email submissions and they find. Then you don't have to worry about 30 people copying the same egg that one person
right,
found.
right, and hopefully, as the game actually develops, maybe the events can be a little bit more integrated into the game. So I mean, you still run the risk of like an egg finding bot, so to speak, but then at least folks would be able to say click on an egg on a map potentially rather than submit it through social media. But like you said, I mean, a private submission system would have, I think, been better and kept the hunt a little bit more above board.
Yeah, and the people that would have complained it is rigged are the same people that claim that Earth 2 is a Ponzi scheme. The people that are into Earth 2 and support Earth 2 would not have complained
Yeah,
about it
I
being rigged.
totally agree with that. So you can't please all of the people, especially if the people are not really people but trolls. So, and the
Yeah.
one other thing, and this is more of I mean, we've kind of touched on it already. These sort of measures that were taken to prevent the event from being ruined. I was also just curious, let's say 4 people from the same clan reported the same egg out of 50 people in that clan. Is that evidence of collusion, or that they shared the location of the egg privately? I just don't know that sort of thing could even be demonstrated. So on one hand, I totally appreciate trying to keep the event fair, but I'm also curious. I mean, we'll see what happens. The winners haven't been announced yet, but if somebody's actually, say, punished for their actions during the egg event, I'm very curious how they're going to justify that, or what evidence they'll have that the person cheated during the event.
I don't know that you can, given that they had the social media reporting and you could do the
Yeah,
camping.
exactly. Yeah, how could you?
I
How could you
mean,
prove that somebody did something less fair than somebody else?
yeah, I just don't see that as, and that's the reason why the social media reporting method was
Yeah,
a
I
flawed
agree.
method.
I agree. But we can learn from this, I think, and maybe have something, a little bit better for the next event. But back to the positives. I mean, let's talk a little bit more about the video. We've talked about, how the egg hunt really functioned, but what else did we learn from the video, right? We saw a bunch of buildings.
Right, and that was kind of cool, kind of just watching them emerge from the ground, and sure enough, people started complaining, "Oh, those buildings are all the same; they're boring." And both Shane and Nathaniel made it very clear, and in fact, at the end of the video, it made it very clear that buildings will be customizable. They will be unique. You will be able to decorate the interior, not just the outside, the interior. That's pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. And I think that'll be really interesting to see how people use that when it comes to sort of their megacity building, right? Because you can have sort of a similar aesthetic or theme to your buildings and keep a general style, or you could go nuts with it. I mean, if the buildings are customizable, what's preventing somebody from doing a total like circus themed city? So I'm really excited to see what kind of level of customization we get. But to know that we'll have customizable buildings and some player design buildings is really exciting. So hopefully we'll get to see stuff like that shown off here soon. But to at least see some buildings, I think was great. And we also got to see the famous yellow Jeep, right? So
Yeah, for sure, and that was another thing that Nathaniel said in his Discord chat. And you can go to e2.news and kind of read the recap of what Shane and Nathaniel said after the Easter egg hunt. But he said that they want helicopters, planes, ships, sci-fi vehicles. So spaceships?
yeah, I
I
mean,
don't
to me,
know.
it sounds like sky's the limit, right? I mean, whatever we really want, and they do want to allow for that fast travel from various points across the world. So, you could tie the vehicles in to be part of that. Um,
So one of the things that vehicles kind of makes me wonder, and this is something we're going to talk about in a little bit later, is at the end, and I want to read this whole thing just so we kind of discuss
mhm.
it completely. So at the end of the video, it says, "This is only a tease of the E2 engine capabilities. In the future, the buildings will be much, much more detailed and will contain full interiors." Now, it doesn't say whether we can actually customize interiors, so I'm kind of curious about that. But maybe you can like have a blueprint for a specific interior that we talked about with
Right,
Meta
right.
last show. And then we will also support customizable and player designed buildings, which means many buildings will look and feel very different at a massive scale. The cities will be completed with streets, player placed objects, and much more. Real time high speed travel will be possible with massive draw distances, meaning buildings and objects will render at massive ranges, giving true realistic feels in a massive open environment. So I kind of want to transition into because the vehicle thing works with the street thing. So they're wiping all the highways and streets that are on
Right.
the planet. But it seems like you're going to need streets in order to, and this is the thing. So if they're going to have teleportation, why do we need
Well, that
streets?
is, I mean, I suppose then streets are really for those forms of transportation that rely on them. I mean, we've talked before about folks that have plans for a racing league, but I mean, to your point, from a strictly transportational
Well,
sense, they would be kind of rendered obsolete, right? They don't, from a functional sense at least, at that point.
unless the teleportation is cost prohibitive, and the only way people that can't afford teleportation can travel would be via the
Yeah.
streets.
I mean, if it costs X amount of essence every time you teleport, then folks may decide that it's,
Yeah.
you know,
So
yeah,
there's
exactly, that it's just cost prohibitive to use that.
yeah, I just thought about that as I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, so the streets would be for, and it's an aesthetic thing too. You want your city to kind of make sense, and just having buildings after buildings after buildings with like nothing between them just
Yeah,
kind of would look
exactly. And I
weird.
mean, to your point, just thinking, and we could, there's a lot of different ways that they could do it, but it's hard to conceptualize the sort of VR world that I think a lot of us are picturing without sort of sidewalks and streets to go between, different shops or different entertainment venues.
Yeah, and I want my virtual reality Lamborghini and my
Yeah, I mean, how
casino empire.
better to show off your media empire, Hazy, than these streets to show all of your winnings, right?
Right, exactly. So I mean, having streets and having vehicles, and having something like that E2 Jeep is kind of cool. So being able to have like vanity items like that, and maybe that's one of the things you can buy. They were talking about things that you'd be able to buy with Essence or other things that you can, or maybe different kind of prize you can buy. So having vanity items like a car
Yeah,
would make
absolutely.
sense.
And I mean, beyond that too, if we've got our own properties or our own hubs, whether it's like the house that your character quote unquote lives in, or just a property you own, these customizable items could, who knows what that means for the actual things that you could do with your buildings. I mean, the assets themselves could be interactable. You could have pinball machines or tennis courts. Um, and you could also have more
Yeah,
aesthetic items that you mentioned. If I want my streets to have newspaper bins and trash cans, I can do that.
yeah, and you could put a basketball court or a tennis court, or you can kind of do things that for recreational purpose. So if you have a park, you can kind of create a fountain and surround it with landscape. I mean, there's all kinds of ways we can go with this. It's a matter of how in depth do they want
Exactly.
to
and
make it.
and I think that a huge part of the question too is they may want to go as in depth as we're describing, but how quickly will we get those different features? I think that's another question too.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be baby steps. I think we'll get the building blocks and the buildings, and maybe the ability to lay the street down first, and then slowly but surely they'll add things we can do, things that we can add to our buildings, things we can add to our streets. And so I think it's going to be a slow progression. I don't think this is going to happen in the next year. Probably not in the next 3 years. It's going to be a
Yeah,
5 to 10 year
I agree with that.
project.
Yeah, especially when we're talking about the type of asset creation that we're talking about, that level of depth. Yeah, we're talking multiple years for sure.
Yeah, especially if they want to implement it into virtual reality. So I mean, it'd be one thing if it was just a computer game, but making it a world that people can access via VR makes it a much more
Right. And
complex
we're
task.
still in the scheme of things at the front end of that technology's capabilities. So hopefully we're at the front end of something, very exciting and one of the first things that really takes advantage of that, nascent technology.
Before we move on, because I know you're anxious to move on, but I did want to talk about what streets mean for megacities. So the megacities typically have been planning for this. They have their city lined up with tile roads that were reserved for roads, and a lot of times I always thought, man, that's a waste of money just to throw down two tile plots, 100 tiles long and 50 tiles wide. But it looks like it's actually going to pay off for them by
Yeah, very
planning that
well.
way.
I mean, there's still a lot for us to learn about the way that the roads are going to be implemented, but it appears that they may have had the right idea on the front end. And it does make the cities kind of look more aesthetically appealing just from the satellite view. But it'll be fascinating to compare some of the planned megacities, which are often in cheaper or lesser known nations, and compare those to say, the densely packed major metropolitan cities. Like, what's downtown Manhattan going to look like, or what is downtown Paris going to look like?
Yeah,
Because no streets would have been naturally built into those.
and that's a whole nother discussion. I know we've had this discussion before on this podcast, but I tend to think that the virtual reality aspect, the advertising aspect, it's not going to matter the name of the location. It's not going to matter if it's New York City or Liberia. What's going to matter is where are people going. And that's why I've been focusing on areas where there are mega cities. Not now, obviously, New York City is going to be a mega city
Right.
just by being itself. It doesn't have to create a mega city, but a place like Liberia or uh, predicts mega city. Well,
Yeah.
that is predicts
Yeah.
mega city, but a place like that is going to be viable because of the sheer volume of people
Right.
that
I
are
mean,
going
I've
to be
got
going.
one mega city that I recently purchased in is in the nation of Georgia, which I believe is still under like 60 cents a tile. So in terms of accessibility, and to your point, yeah, maybe people coming into the game won't know that nation right away. But if you find out that there's great, fun things to do there, the location will quickly become irrelevant, especially if somebody's also still looking to buy.
Um,
Yeah.
Kangi, I
Oh,
have a
yeah, go
bone. To,
for
I
it.
have a bone to pick.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. So thank you for listening to the ad. The first part to get the $50 giveaway. Go to your favorite podcast listening platform. We don't care what it is. Like, review, leave 5 stars, subscribe, any of those. Take a screenshot of it, save it, and in part 2, we'll tell you what to do with it.
Armenia tiles are 51
You're right.
cents.
We had a handshake agreement that anytime I'm plugging a cheaper nation, that it's got to be Armenia. So I'll walk back what I said.
No, no, that's not my problem. You haven't bought a
Oh,
tile
that's
yet
true.
in my
That's
mega
true.
city.
Okay, well, by the time we record the next podcast, that will have changed. Okay, there
All
we
right, I'll
go.
give you the location, but
Okay.
not telling anyone else. Though. It's a secret.
I'll help develop the Armenia Vegas vision that you've got.
Sweet. All right, so a couple more topics. Did want to go over the credit card withdrawal, basically because I did run a test, and I talked this briefly when we had Meta on. So I did get my withdrawal, minus the $8.70 for 5 different transactions. So I lost
Sometimes
$43.
being a scientist can be expensive.
But I did. So I emailed support saying, "Hey, they all went to the same credit card. Is there a way we can have this money back?" I haven't heard from them yet, but maybe I'll get
That's
lucky. But
fair.
I'm definitely not
So
counting
when
on
you
it.
ran this test, you said it was all back to the same credit card. Had you tried? And to clarify for the listeners, you're operating through a U.S. bank, right? A United States bank.
I am, and so what I did, like I said, I did 5 separate $60 transactions. 3 were debit cards, and 2 were credit cards. The 3 debit cards all failed, and one of the 2 credit cards failed. The one that worked was a Citi Mastercard, and so that is going to be my money laundering card of the future.
Don't worry, everybody. He's only joking about money laundering.
I am, but basically, the way I see it is, that card only has a $2,000 balance. So if I pay it off, I'll go pay some bills with that card. Pay my cable payment, pay my internet payment. I'll run the bill back up, and that way I can just kind of filter the Earth 2 money through that card, because I don't know, like if I had a zero balance on the card, I would just basically have negative a negative
Yeah, I've
credit. I
had
don't know
that a
how
few
that would
times
work.
just when something got refunded, or one time I mistakenly submitted a payment twice. And that is how it's worked in those circumstances. It'll be a surplus on the card that you sort of pay down. Or
Yeah, but I couldn't go. I couldn't go to the
exactly.
bank
Yep,
and pull that
exactly.
cash
So
out.
you
That's what
kind
I'm
of have to
saying.
like buy yourself, you like
Yeah.
buy it back down to, a $0 balance.
Well, the good thing is it's a rewards card, so I'm gonna be
Yeah.
doing
Although
well.
you did tell me that they actually took away some of your reward points.
Oh yeah, they did. I forgot about that.
It's
Never mind. I suck. No, but no, they'll take. Yeah, I don't know. That'll like if I spend $1,000 and then refund 1,000, they're gonna just take it all
it's
back.
yeah.
I need to find a new credit card.
Next week's episode is going to be Hazy's new credit card and making sure that it
Uh,
works for Earth 2 withdrawals.
yeah, they did. They did refund. They did take back all my
Yeah.
rewards points. I was kind of disappointed about
I
that.
think that that's fair. Well, yeah, one thing that you could do with the money that you get back is you could always, take it to the marketplace. So, what have your experiences been since we last talked as far as, are you buying things, are you selling things? What are you seeing out there?
Well, like I said last week, anytime I have $E in my account, I go look for a bargain. So my $E account right now is
So you
40 some cents. So that should answer
So
that.
it has
That should
been,
answer that
you're
question.
telling me it's been a buyer's market, or at least you've been buying on that market. And
I've been finding spots. Like it's not like I'm just gonna pull up my transactions real quick. So like for example, I bought just before we came on the show, I bought 17 tiles in Spain for $27. It's class 2 tiles, but that's like
you're under $2 a
$27 is
tile,
like
right? I mean,
the current. Yeah, and the current market value for those 17 tiles is 127. So I don't really care that it's only class 2.
yeah,
That's the
that's an
kind of bargain
insane
I want
deal.
to get.
And I've been seeing, I mean, I have been seeing a similar market to what you've been seeing. In some places, it really seems that it's a buyer's market, or that there are individual users that are liquidating. So in one case, I bought two things off of, I'm assuming, the same person who just had crazy deals listed that, I'm guessing are all gone by now. So I was able to get some London tiles for basically, I think it was 81% off. And like you though, still, it's
Nice.
class 2, but as I've written about before, it seems that, is class 2 really going to be worth that sort of, or excuse me, let me phrase it this way: is class 1 going to be that much more valuable than class 2? That class 2 should be that much of a discount. So
I'm not afraid. Yeah, I'm not afraid to take a class 2 if it's gonna be 75, 80% off. So like one I showed you was that class 2 in Toronto, 27 tiles, and I
right,
paid $50
exactly. I
for it.
mean, that's a massive, massive markdown. So
And I flipped it in 2 days for 65. I probably should have kept it, but I was just kind of seeing how quickly I
yeah,
could flip it,
and
and
I mean, I
it
think
went
that
pretty
that's going to be
fast.
one thing that, yeah, I think that as the community is waiting for more announcements and waiting for more information about phase 2, I think there's a good possibility that it continues to be a buyer's market until we see that. There could always be an influx of publicity and something that brings new buyers in, but as far as the current community, it seems that they're more keen on holding or maybe selling some of their properties than making huge new investments. But I could be wrong. We're still waiting on the post. We still need these Easter prizes to drop. So we could see that change.
Right. And so there's several ways we can do the marketplace. And I know you're a traditionalist. You just go to the Earth 2 marketplace and you just go
Exactly.
through country by country buying it. But there is, when we talked about Earth 2 market before, and I wrote an article about it over the weekend, basically asking premium marketplace services, good or bad. And so let me explain a little about what the premium marketplace does. What it does is it takes the data on the Earth2.io site and it basically scrapes the data using an API and it does what's called a quick refresh. So like on the marketplace, for you to go through all 150 countries, it's going to take you a little while. Here on Earth2.market, though, you can set a filter for like class 1 tile class, maximum market value $100, sort by highest discount. And it will refresh if you're on this elite premium service every 2 seconds. So that's a huge advantage for people using that service. So they're seeing when someone lists that 60% discount for class one tiles, they're getting it right away. And the people that do it the way you do
for
it,
sure.
they're
And
never
I
going
mean,
to
I
see it.
know with certainty that right now, I'm buying things from folks who are using those services because, and you actually screenshotted one of these in your article. You'll see somebody who bought the property who is currently selling it. They bought it from somebody else for basically the listing, the same price that seller A had bought it for 3 months ago. And these are deals that I never seem to find. So
Yeah.
somebody's out there getting them, through.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's use that as an example. So on January 9th, a person bought 203 tiles in Monaco for $31.06. I don't know how many of you know how expensive Monaco is, but that's pretty cheap for Monaco. That's like 15 cents a tile. So on April 2nd, that same person listed that property for the exact price he paid for it. $31.06. I'm going to guarantee you
Right.
that was snapped up in under 30
And presumably,
seconds.
or at least possibly by somebody using either, I mean,
No, it's
okay,
not
okay.
that person is in that group.
Yeah, that's fair.
I blacked
That's
out
fair.
their name for a reason.
So yeah, I mean, and inevitably if that person is, say, a flipper, they're going to be able to, get it off of somebody like me who's using caveman marketplace.
Yeah, and so if you go to that screenshot, you'll see that it was immediately listed for $215, which is a relative bargain for Monaco tiles.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, again, it's going to come back to somebody like me who's not using one of those premium services. And I haven't personally used one, but I've heard people, speak glowingly about having used them before. I know that you've at least, checked them out.
Right. So I used the free version, which was not a 2 second refresh. It was like I think a 1 hour refresh, but it was still superior to the Earth 2.io marketplace because I could filter all countries at one time instead of one country at a time. That was the big one for me, being able to filter all countries, which is why we were excited when we saw that all country.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, that's
3 minutes.
Really what this is a testament to. I mean, folks have been arguing about the ethics of using a service like this. And for me, I don't use it, but I'm not going to judge anybody necessarily for using it. What I will say is I just really want to see more levers for looking at the marketplace and for looking at my own profile, because I do use some of these third-party websites to look at my profile because they make it easier for me to sort and see where my nations are.
Yeah. So my problem isn't with the people using it. It is an unfair advantage. There's no doubt about that. But that's on Earth 2 to make their service better. It's not, or to not allow API scraping. If they're allowing API scraping, then
yeah, and I mean, so far I haven't heard that's, there's nothing in the terms of service or anything like that says that we can't do it or that folks can't take advantage of it.
Right, and the argument I've seen is that even though it's not a bot, it's kind of like a bot because they're having that auto refresh every 2 seconds. So I do know that the creator of the site, maybe in reaction to the article or maybe in reaction to all the Discord conversation that's going on, has actually allowed for the premium service, not the elite 2 second service, but it is one of the premium services. It's free now. So if you want, I'm not getting paid for this, but you can go check it out. Go to Earth2.market and Earth2.market/premium and check it out, and you can see what the premium service does. So for example, I have it loaded. I just did tile class 1, max price $200, and I'm going to sort by discount high to low. and apply filter, and it will update every 6 seconds according to this. So that's pretty good. And so let's see, I get a 51% discount in PE, whatever that is. Hang on, let me pull it up.
Somebody else
nope, that
might
one's
be
sold
using
already.
it simultaneously.
Right, so there's a 48% in Denmark. So 21 tiles in Denmark for $117. Land value is $225, so that's a pretty good discount. So that's the kind of thing you can see with this premium service. You can just pop it up and you can enter in your max price. So like if you only have $280, you can just put in $200 and see what you can get. And that's why I like
and that
using it.
is
I can
one
find
serious
stuff pretty
benefit to
quickly.
it is, as folks have money enter their accounts through their land income tax, or let's say they make a couple of sales, it is nice to be able to filter down to what your maximum price point is, because some of these nations, United States being an easy example, but many of the Western European nations, China and Japan, South Korea, these are all of your marketplace discounts near the top of the page are going to be 3 and 4 digit prices, right? You're going to be in the high hundreds or in the thousands of dollars. So if you have 100, maybe even $50, and you want to see, oh, can I get just a couple of class 1 tiles somewhere? It's nice to be able to have that filter. And that's really what I hope these third-party sites end up doing, is encouraging the team to, add more widgets and levers for us to use within Earth-2.io.
Right, so they can do everything these third-party sites are doing. It just is a matter of development time. And right now they're focused on doing the phase 2 stuff, the Essence, the EPLs. So one of the things I did want to talk about is there's a rumor going around that the Earth 2 EPL is going to be E2.
Okay, so we would have so properties would then have their own sort of separate suffix for their website, right? It wouldn't be through the Earth2.io and then /
right.
your crazy property ID. It would be a much more truncated thing potentially.
Right, it'll be a 2-letter.
I mean, that's really
domain,
exciting,
basically.
especially if you're one of those lucky folks that manages to get a highly coveted, what's the word I'm looking for? Property name, like named after, say, either a huge city or a resource itself. Yeah, corporate name, like there's a
corporation. Tesla, Amazon, Microsoft, those are all going to go real quick because the reason people are going to grab these, it's not because they want them.
Absolutely.
They want to
and there's going to be, there's so many properties out there that there's going to be more than one approach to, coming up with a lucrative property name. Because if you're in Paris and you're the first person that gets to name your property Paris, imagine, the value of that URL potentially.
Or you can be in Tanzania and have Tesla in Tanzania.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It doesn't matter where. It doesn't matter where you're at to get that EPL.
No. And to that point, some people have talked about using resource as their EPL. And you could name something, I don't know, platinum, that doesn't even have platinum. It could get quite interesting once we actually see this rolled out.
Yeah, it's going to be. So I have a preliminary spreadsheet. I'm not going to say what I'm going after, but I have about 50 EPLs I want to get. They're not going to be the most popular ones because I don't want to fight. They are going to be pretty popular, but I'm going to strategically go after them.
That's a really good idea, because that's something I actually haven't sat down to do yet, is really think about what properties I want to prioritize and what I would want to name them. So.
Right, and you're also going to have to prioritize which properties that you own are going to get those EPLs.
Yeah, because I have tons of stuff that I really don't, or I should say, many properties I have, they're really for resource generation, and I'm not too concerned with them being the destination. But then in other cases, I very much want to use that in game. So.
Yeah, so what my spreadsheet basically looks like, it actually has the property URL. That way I can just
really
copy
prepped.
paste it and
You're
go right to it. Oh, dude, I'm I'm a number. I'm a geek. Let's just make it clear right now. I am a geek. I prepare. I crunch numbers. I do spreadsheets. You name it, I do it. It's why I've done well in poker. It's why I did well in daily
I
fantasy
definitely
sports,
believe
and it's
that
why
your
I'm going to do well on
preparation is
Earth
going to be
too.
the key here. But hey, I'm excited to be a part of it. If you prepare a bunch, then I can ride some of your Armenia Vegas coattails.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So the MGM Grand will be mine.
Located in Armenia.
Oh crap! I just gave away one.
That's
of my
okay. There's a few
EPO.
more casinos that you could take. Yeah, that's true.
Or other things. I'm not gonna.
Well, we'll
get
try
into
to keep
detail,
the
but
leaks to a
I
minimum
have my
for this
plans.
particular episode.
All right. So don't forget the giveaway. There, like I said, there's going to be 2 advertisements. The first one will be the details of the giveaway. The second one will be how you can win it. And we will be back maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. We're working on something special. If that happens, we'll be here Thursday. If it doesn't happen, we'll be here for our regular time on Friday. So we do thank you for listening to the My Name is Human Earth2.io podcast, brought to you by each.
Okay, so take that screenshot and mail it to the following email address: earth2news@gmail.com. That's EARTHTWONEWS@gmail.com.